market for the East India Company's opium was China, which meant that a large fleet of ships shuttled constantly between Calcutta and Guangzhou, or Canton as it was known to Europeans.
I thought I was mad to have taken on, a task like this. I mean, it just seemed so impossibly ambitious and so impossibly complicated. But there was also a moment when, I felt like I was hurtling forward,
The Hooghly is silted now, but was once one of the world's busiest ports. And Kolkata, or Calcutta as the city was then known, was the capital of Britain's empire in India.
One of the things that I really intended to do in this book is to interrogate the whole idea of freedom, especially the ways in which, freedom is deployed as a rhetorical device in, creating this war of aggression. There were other aspects to it too, when I knew that it was going to be a book about the sea and about the sea in the 19th century, I felt I should learn to sail. So I tried to learn to sail as well, and that was very instructive. In the first book in this trilogy, in Sea of Poppies, I was exploring, if you like, the nautical dimension of this language. In the second, I was exploring the pigeons and the trade dimensions. And in this one, I wanted to really explore exactly this, the suggestive power, the erotic power, if you like, of language. And that was what was so extraordinarily sort of pleasurable about writing, these scenes, because you'll see this. I mean, the scenes at once sort of comical. I was working as a reporter, and this is something I've done throughout my. Thank you. This is something I've done throughout my writing career. That I've often done. I started my writing career as a journalist. And I've often written for newspapers and magazines. Writing is, at the end of the day, a very mysterious process. And I say this, as someone who's been immersed in these mysteries for a very long time. It is very mysterious because, often you'll just sit there with that little piece of paper in front of you and nothing comes, And, there are days which are really fallow days, but you have to stick with it. You have to sort of labor on. And then suddenly there'll be a day when you're sitting there in a completely inexplicable way for no particular reason. You'll suddenly just see, the way opening. You'll see window after window after window, just opening in front of you and, receding into the horizon. And really there have been days when I just, that happens. And it happens like in a flash, in like minutes. You just see this. And, it's like some sort of synapse has clicked in your brain, and like a flash, it goes like that. Then you sit back and you say, well, I know what I have to do for the next year. I never have a sense of how the story is going to proceed. I never do. I mean, for me, it always begins with characters. And the story forms around the characters and how they interact. I never have a sense of, the story is going to be like this, and I have these characters, and I'm going to move them there, The way I work, it's really the characters sort of, in some sense, find their own way. I would say that my interest in food is not just in terms of the taste, but also, I'm concerned with how food is produced. And how food is consumed and the reasons for which food is consumed, So that, to some significant degree, does guide my culinary interests. I now grow a lot of things, and that's something I love to do. I think I like to say that I grow some of the best black pepper that you can ever find. I take great pride in the black pepper that I grow. In Goa.
So how much time do you spend in Goa?
I'm there for about half the year now. I know this may sound strange, but my house in Brooklyn and my house in Goa are strangely similar. You know, they both have very high ceilings, they're old houses. I mean, I go from one study to another study and I have the same objects in both studies. I have the same, I have the same, I carry my computer, but I have the same screens. I have the same sorts of paper. I have, so I've been very careful to minimize as it were, the disruption. My first drafts are on a sketch pad with a pencil. That's how I do my first couple of drafts, Then I move to a writing pad and a fountain pen. And in the process of moving from the sketch pad to the paper, it changes. The sentences begin to take shape. Then when I move from paper to the computer screen, again the sentences, take a different kind of shape. For me, all these processes are essential. All these processes are very intimately connected with each other. And I find, the visual appearance of a paragraph makes a huge difference, So when I see it on paper, it looks different from when I see it, on a computer screen. But I need to get both those looks at it. Perfection is more than I or any writer can aspire to, I think. I think poets can aspire to perfection, but for novelists, I think perfection is not something within the realm of possibility. The life of a writer is in many ways very schizophrenic, I mean, for years and years, I hardly see anyone apart from my family. And I like that, I think that sort of seclusion is necessary, to writing books of the sort that I write, which are demanding, which require long periods of concentration. And I actually really enjoy my solitude, so those fallow moments are also moments of preparation. Just as a fallow field is also regenerating, Those are moments of preparation. I often compare it to Hindustani music, it's the tayyari has to be there, it's a tayyari. So every day you're doing the tayyari, and then suddenly one day, when it happens, you're ready. I love music. Music is very, very important to me. And I think, because, in many ways, the forms of Hindustani classical music have really created for me a sense also of structure, With these three books, one is the Alap, one is the Vilambit, and one is the Jor and the Gat, So, yes, in a sense, you can see that, that sense of rhythm where you're talking about it, hurtling forward. Certainly, it profoundly influences my way of thinking. At the end of the day, I'm a novelist. Fiction is the water, is the air I breathe. It's the only thing that I can do, really. It's my, it's the only thing in the world that I really love to do. So it's more than just a liking or a passion. It's really my way of life now. It's just I get up in the morning. There are these words in my head. It's a question of getting them onto the piece of paper. Here you are.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.